We are back with another edition of The Journey with Joe, and I'm going to thank our sponsor, Docent Breweries, down in San Juan Capistrano. They are super duper awesome. If you're looking for a cool place to check out, give them a shout. Go look. They've got good food, good drinks. You'll enjoy it over there. I'm super pumped today to have Mr. Mortgage Kitchen himself, Jide Buckley, here in the studio filming and going to learn a little bit about what makes you tick, how we go. So thank you.
It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah, it does feel like a real honor. This is the first time I've been on the other side of the podcast.
Really?
So,
yeah. This is cool. This is cool. So we're gonna dig in a little bit. Get to know a little bit more about you and your story and your journey. And I think you really make it look easy, right? Like when I see you online, I'm like, this guy is as smooth as silk, right? Like he must have just been born that way.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit. Obviously, you didn't grow up in the States because I don't hear a hard New York accent. So where'd you grow up? Tell me a little bit about that. And how'd you wind up in the US of A?
Dude, so I was born in Long Island in New York, actually.
Oh, really?
Right? So
look at that. You don't have that nasty New York accent?
No, my mum specifically wanted to bring me to England so I could get my accent together. But no, so my family, my mum is from the UK. So my mum lived in England all her life. And then she moved over to the States to do some au pairing and just kind of like live it up a bit in New York.
Wow.
And then had me in New York. We stayed there for about 5 years.
Okay.
So I developed a little Mickey Mouse kind of American accent at that point. And then I moved back to the UK when I was 5.
Oh, wow.
So then from 5 till I think 24 and a bit, just over 24, I lived in the UK. I was very, I guess as a kid, I was always very high energy. I was always very comfortable kind of just like, being out there, being a bit of a go-getter, trying different things out. So I was always into like video editing and all that kind of stuff. I got my first laptop when I was 11. So for me, I love content creation. And I was doing content creation before it was even cool. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was doing all that kind of business.
So you like all the nerdy stuff?
Yeah.
Like how it actually comes together.
Right. Like I love your setup you have here, dude. I was looking at the Beat Laboratory thing you've got to connect the audio and I was like, damn, I want to get one of those.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
All the gadgets.
So yeah, I was studying in the UK all the way from, primary school up into secondary school. And then I went to college. At college, I studied marketing.
Okay.
So I did 4 years of marketing undergrad. I got a BA honors degree, did pretty good. And then from there, I was like, what do I do with my life? Because your marketing degree is very broad. There's so many different industries that you can apply marketing into.
100%.
So from there, I kind of just thought, okay, I need more time. I need to dig deeper into this like marketing thing to understand what it is I like about it. So I dug into doing a master's degree and then I got a year in and I was like, dude, this weather is terrible. I've got a US passport. Let's just do it. Like I know enough now at this point.
Yeah. So
I dropped out halfway through my master's.
No way.
So I'm a college dropout with a degree.
Yeah.
Right?
I like it.
It's cool. And then I came over to the US. In the US, I just kind of found my feet. Do you know what I mean? Like I was here on my own. I still am.
Yeah. All your family's back there?
Everyone.
Cool.
Yeah, my whole family's in the UK. And I just kind of had to just restart everything from ground zero. So it helps having a British degree for sure.
Okay.
And being here in LA, dude, I just kind of, was taking in the good weather. I was feeling good. I was trying new things out.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what landed me in mortgage, honestly.
Gotcha.
It was just a lot of timing for me because I was really good at data. I was obsessed with marketing. I worked in marketing, doing a lot of like data and like back-end analytics for like a marketing agency. So I love the way that you can utilize numbers and make things, show different like types of ROI through marketing and like show how well, marketing is helping a business improve their sales and things like that.
For sure.
So in the US, as I was, I got here, I kind of found my feet, started working in marketing, and then the pandemic struck, and there was an opportunity there to become a loan officer.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm not good at sales, but I'm really good at numbers. And I was like, I feel like I could articulate the benefits of a refi to someone pretty well.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, the benefits are going to be good. I think I could do pretty well with this.
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to be the time, if there's going to be any time.
Yeah.
So then I just dove straight into mortgage, and I took my obsession with learning about marketing and the skill set that I had, which was just learning, because I spent 5 years at college. I was just learning for that whole 5 years.
Yeah.
So I was a student at college, and I just took it straight into mortgage. And I became a student of mortgage.
Yeah.
And I still am, because I became completely obsessed and consumed by it.
Really?
Yeah.
So that's interesting, because there aren't many people who love data and marketing, right? Like, so that's kind of your superpower, because most people, you either love data and then you're like this intrusive person. Like, I'm kind of weird like that, right? Because I love data and I'm outgoing,
right?
But you love the data. Like, there's very few people in marketing that love the data. It's usually two separate departments.
100%.
Right? But
Yep.
you said, hey, I really love this, and I also am super strong here. And you figured out a way to put that together and articulate it and teach people, which is kaboom, right? Like, that's magic.
Yeah.
There are very few people who have that superpower.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah.
They really don't. So it's funny what you'd say about your story on coming here.
Yeah.
That was almost my same story.
No way.
I grew up in Brooklyn, right? I came out here to work.
Okay.
They sent me out here, and it was beautiful weather, beautiful everything. And I was like, I got to figure out my life. I'm not going back. And so I'm here by myself too. No family. All my family lives in Brooklyn, and everybody's back there. And when I first came here, they thought I was crazy. They're like, why would you move to that country? And I'm like, it's America. They're like, it's so far. Like, nobody lives there. There's earthquakes and stuff like that. But it's weird being somewhere on your own, like with nobody around. But it's also kind of liberating, right? Like, you just say, just do it. Right?
That's exactly the word I was going to use, liberating. You know, you just feel like free. Like, all right, you know, when you're around your friends and your family, they have this picture of you that they create. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it almost seeps into you. You're almost like, okay, I'm this version of me that everyone else knows. Yeah. But as soon as you go somewhere and no one knows you, dude, you can reinvent yourself to be whatever you want to be. Do you know what I mean? Totally. And that's that liberating feeling. That's what feels good about kind of just going out there and doing it on your own. You know?
Yeah. Well, it's so funny because we just talked to the last guy we talked about, right? And it was same thing. He's like, I want to do my own thing. I want to be me. But 99% of people don't want to do that. They want safe, right? And I think the only way that you're going to get success at any level, right, is if you're willing to get uncomfortable. Right. Because this move across the pond, did I say that right?
Yes.
Yes. Across the pond is something most people don't want to do. They're too scared. So they stay in their comfortable little getting their master's degree, right?
Right.
But you took that step.
Yep.
Right. And that's really cool. You said it was liberating, and it is a sense of freedom, right? But you also used another word that I love, which was obsessed.
Right.
So tell me about that. You're obsessed with the marketing, with the loan business, with the opportunity. Like, I feel like I'm putting myself in your shoes, right? You're over here and you're searching a little bit, right? And then you discover mortgage and you're like, I can do this. Right. Right. And then you just went all in.
Yeah. So for me, the obsession was more of a personal thing. So it's actually very, I have a long relationship with the housing industry that actually kind of started when I was a teenager.
Okay.
So actually even before then, to be honest with you. So my obsession really came from me not being in such a great situation as a kid and having the opportunity to finally have a home when I was a teenager.
Oh.
So for a long time, so we moved back to the UK, and my mum and I lived in her childhood bedroom at my grandparents' house for a while.
Wow.
For a pretty long time.
Really?
And then from there we moved into our first apartment, but it was just like, dude, it's like, we're talking like damp on all of the windowsills, on the edges of all the ceilings.
Really?
It was like I got asthma from like all the damp.
Oh, dang.
No heating. We had a little electric heater because the heating was too expensive. It was like really not a great situation. And then when I was a teenager, we got very lucky. We were on a housing register, and we went from being, in this situation. It was just, honestly, it was really horrible, and I felt really bad for my mum. But she worked as hard as she could. She just physically couldn't work out of, the situation we were in. So we went from living in that kind of, quite bad scenario to then being given a home through this housing register in the UK.
Wow.
So we weren't essentially given the home, but they gave us the opportunity to rent the home at a subsidized rate.
Okay.
And then we rented it for a while. And then my mum managed to get my uncle on. Some things happened, and we basically managed to buy the home. So now my mum owns it.
Nice.
And it changed the whole trajectory of her life.
Yeah.
So I saw what happened to her, and I was like, wow, that's so cool. And, through really feeling how much home ownership can affect your own life, especially as a kid, as soon as I thought, okay, I can help people at scale and I can help them change the trajectory of their lives the same way that mine's been changed.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, game over, man. Like,
that became the obsession.
Yeah. I was like, in my head, I'm like, I am obsessed with helping that single mum and that kid who was me, because if I can give back at the end of my life, and I've helped 1,000 single mums get into a home and change the trajectory of their lives and help their kids get to a better school through home ownership and being in the right situation, like, oh, dude, I'm gonna die happy, man. That is what gets me going.
Dude, that is so powerful. And to piggyback on that too, right, is you're not only changing that mom and that kid, but then that kid's kids,
right,
and their generations, right? I tell the story about, I grew up in an apartment and single mom, and I thought I was going to be a lifelong renter.
Mm-hmm.
I did, until I met my wife, who was like, we're going to buy a house. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, only rich people buy homes. Poor broke boys from Brooklyn, they don't buy shit.
Right.
Right. And then we bought a house, and I realized, like, my 2 daughters are going to grow up wanting to be homeowners.
Right.
Right. Because my mindset changed, my situation changed. But so I think that's huge, by helping, like, that changed your trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're doing that for other people.
Right.
And it's just going to keep going on
Right.
and on and on, which is super cool.
I mean, dude, my first option was, as a kid, I was always obsessed with basketball.
Uh-huh.
And prior to this podcast, I was saying to Joe before we jumped on here, I ended up having a little scrimmage with AC Green.
Yeah.
At the gym. Like, what the hell? This is crazy. But I was obsessed
Only in LA, by the way.
Right.
Only in LA.
It doesn't happen anywhere.
That's a very LA thing.
So I was obsessed with basketball as a kid. And my first choice was to become an NBA player. And then I remember vividly thinking this as a kid. I was like, when I become really rich, I'm going to secretly help, like, single mums and just, like, find them and like hang out with them and, like, be cool, and then just dish them, like, a decent amount of money so they can buy a home and help them. And like that was my weird, like, way of giving back to the world, because I was like, I thought that'd be such a cool thing to do, like, be like super rich and successful and give back. I was obsessed with that. Really? And then obviously I didn't make it to the NBA. No. But this is the next best thing for me.
100%. And those single moms sacrifice so much, right? Like, my mom was the same boat. Like, that amount of sacrifice. How much sacrifice did your mom do? I said, dude. Mom.
Yeah, mom.
It's pretty good. Shout out to mom. Yeah. Shout out to mom and mums all over the place. Right. But talk to me about mom's hard work. Like, how did mom's hard work impact you?
Dude, the main thing that my mom did for me more than anything, and this is why I even do social media today, is she instilled this deep belief in myself that I can do anything, to the point whereby I was 5 foot tall, and I was like watching a basketball film called Like Mike. You've seen Like Mike, right? Yeah,
for sure.
And I was like, I turned to my mum and I was like, Mum, can I dunk? And she was like, yeah, you can. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm 5 foot. How can I dunk? And she looked at me so like not jokey, like serious. She was like, you haven't tried hard enough. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, just try harder, you'll dunk. And I'm like, yeah, but I can't. It's not possible. She's like, you can. And it was this delusional level of confidence that she gave me as a kid. Yeah. She was like, you can do anything you want to do. There's nothing you can't do. Oof. And maybe we didn't have a lot, but like every Sunday she'd make me shun my shoes. Like, she'd make me like stand properly. She'd make me, focus at school. My mind was in a completely different place to where I was physically. Yeah. Like I felt success. I felt like I felt so empowered as a kid.
Ooh, good word.
And I just knew, dude, I mean, it was inevitable that I had success because I constantly magnetize it to myself.
Yeah.
Even now. And there's no element of doubt in me. Even if I left the mortgage industry today and I went to a different sector, I know I could be the best in a couple of years.
Yeah, because you're willing to put in the work and you'll do whatever it takes, right? It's having that attitude of like, I'll do whatever it takes because I can be successful because there's no other option, right? You're not going to get into something and half-ass it. I don't take that from you.
Right.
You're like, I'm going to get in, I'm going to do this, I'm going to give it my all, I'm going to be successful, or I'm going to die trying. Right. So I think that's cool. That's an amazing lesson from mom.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that speaks to a lot of single moms out there, a lot of people who are sacrificing so much that I think in the world that we live in with social, everybody makes things look easy, right? Like I started off by talking about how smooth and silk and easy you make it look, right? But there's so much that goes into it. And I wish there was a social media platform where you could really share the journey and the struggles and the pain, right? Because I think that the pain is what brings out the greatness, right? It's very rare that you meet somebody that it just comes easy all the time, right? I think for anybody out there in business and sales, in anything, in parenting and marriage, right? Like there's a lot of pain that you go through, a lot of trials and tribulations, but on the other side of that is where you have success, is where you have glory, right? So many people just think we live in a world that doesn't share that, right? Like that was so cool what you shared because it was so real, right? That I don't think many people realize, right? They just think this guy's just a smooth talker, good looking dude.
Yeah.
You know, but mom is what helped make you that.
Yeah, 100%.
You know? That's cool. That's cool. So how'd you wind up in California? And how'd you, wait, let me backtrack. No soccer, basketball?
Basketball. Yeah, I was obsessed with it.
How did that happen in no soccer? Like you're in the UK, you're supposed to kick around the soccer ball.
Dude, see, the reason I'm in California is because of the weather. Yeah. And when I went back to the UK, when you play soccer or football, you're out in the cold. Dude, I was like, even as a kid, I was like, screw this, dude. I'm not doing this. Nah, this ain't cool. What can I do that's indoors? And it was basketball. Man. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I knew as a kid, I was like, I'm from America, so I should be better than everyone else. Even though, that had nothing to do with it.
Nothing to do with it.
Yeah, I was just obsessed with the sport. As soon as I knew it was indoors and it was warm, I was like, all right, let's go for it.
You're like, I'm over this cold weather garbage.
And that's why I'm here. For me, I could have chose to go back to New York because I think that would be a natural thing for me to do.
Yeah, we'll go back to where you started.
But no, man, I was like, look, I want to be in good weather. And I feel like when you're around good weather, it gives you good vibes. And you feel good.
You do. Yeah, we go places and we forget that people vacation here, right? Like we take the palm trees and the sunshine for granted.
Right.
You could grow up in the Pacific Northwest where it rains all the time.
Right.
Nobody wants to deal with that. But you could be in that, right? Here we have sunshine every single day. I think we totally take it for granted.
Big time, man.
So talk to me. So now you pandemic hits.
Right.
Is that when you started doing the socials? Like really doing the social stuff hard?
So interestingly enough, that was when I got into mortgage, and I initially started out in a call center type environment.
Yeah, everybody starts in a call center, dude.
Right, because it's about reps. The more conversations you have, the better you'll get. You'll develop a lot faster.
For sure.
So I was call center, and my nature is I anything I put my mind to, I become obsessed about.
Yeah.
So I realized very quickly there's an East Coast and there's a West Coast. So if I'm going to be better than everyone else, I need to be operating on East Coast and West Coast time. So I actually didn't have time for social media at the beginning because I was getting into the office like 5, 6 in the morning, and I was leaving the office every day like 8, 9 p.m.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Gangster.
Dude,
that's like young Joe Soto type shit.
Dude, I was like, for me, it was almost like an addiction in the sense of I was going to work every day and I felt like I was like going to like a casino or something, dude. Yeah. Because you'd submit a loan, you'd be like, damn, okay, I'm just getting paid. It's amazing. What the hell? Yeah. And you get addicted to that feeling. And then for me, it really helped the fact that the call center environment in mortgage allows you to have some type of competitive nature with your colleagues. Yeah. Because we had a leaderboard, and it meant nothing really at the end of the day, other than I'm better than this person. And I was obsessed with being at the top of the leaderboard, dude. I'm like, I can't.
Really? So competition was a big driving force.
That was 100% it.
Really?
It wasn't so much the money. It was more so I just wanted to be the best.
Yep. They say there's the 3 things that drive people, right? It's pressure, praise, or competition. So for you, it's competition.
Yeah, I have a weird, I have that weird kind of Michael Jordan syndrome whereby if I don't have competition, I start to get complacent. So I create competition in my head.
If we're just in your own little world.
Yes. I'm like, okay, this person's clearly got it out for me. I've got to go. I've got to beat them.
Yeah.
Even though they're the nicest, coolest person sitting next to me, we're having lunch. I'm like, nah, like I become obsessively wanting to be that person.
You're just like, that's my target.
Yes.
Right. That's the one I have to beat.
Big time.
Yeah. So you said something really interesting because it was reps.
Uh-huh.
Right. So you did, like, you got in early.
Mm-hmm.
You realized, hey, if I'm in at 6,
Mm-hmm.
right, then the other slackers who are sleeping till 8 or 9, and then they roll in at 9, and then they don't start working until 9:30 or 10. Like, you've got 4 hours on them.
Right.
Right. They're still trying to figure out like what's for them. Then they start trying to figure out what's for lunch. Right. And you're like, dude, I'm on my 3rd submission today.
Right.
Right. So that became part of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And the obsession is, hey, I can capitalize on 2 markets.
Right.
So you didn't see it as I'm limited to 1. You were like, I'm going to double down on this.
Yeah, dude. My states were New Jersey, Maryland, and California.
How did people take to the accent?
Oh, dude. That was a good one. So I had to learn how to speak differently. So actually the call center was the best thing for me because it allowed me to realize that not everyone understands my accent as easily as I understand it. So
yes. And I asked that because I grew up in Brooklyn, right?
Right.
So when I moved here from New York, I was like straight New Yorker,
Right.
right? Like you hear those guys with the hard New York accents. That was me.
Oh, no
like
way.
Tough Brooklyn accent. Like you talk to my mom and it's like Rosie Perez and J-Lo are in the room with you. Like it's hard New York.
Damn, dude, that's
So
awesome.
I would talk to people and let me know if this happened to you. I would be talking to people. See, I said talking. And you would hear the light, like they just didn't understand a word you said.
Yeah.
And then they'd go, so where are you from? And I'd be like, California. And I'm like, no, you're not, bro. Where are you really from? So that's why I don't have an accent anymore.
Right.
So so you had to like fix how you like not fix, but be more aware of how you spoke.
Yes. And I also took that time in the call center to be very observant of different styles of speaking.
Yeah.
So I was looking at the leaderboard, and on the leaderboard at the top was this guy called Michael. So shout out to Michael if you watch this. I don't know if you will, but I'll send it to him anyway. And he's an OG, dude. He's been in the business for a little while.
Yeah.
And he had an accent. He's originally, I think, from Hong Kong.
Okay.
So he had an accent, it was a fairly strong accent. And this guy was at the top of the leaderboard, and he didn't dress cool. Everyone else had nice watches, wearing the suits, being all cool. Like everyone else looks like that traditional salesy mortgage guy, right?
Yeah.
This guy just came in so casual, so calm, didn't ever look like he was stressed. And he was always at the top of the leaderboard. And my manager was like, Jide, sit next to him. And day one, I was like, why you make me sit next to him? He's not the best. It's that dude over there with the Rolex, or this dude over there who's like pacing around the room with his own headset on with the wireless thing.
Look at me, guy.
I was like, this guy's the good one. He's like, no, trust me, sit next to Michael. And I started out speaking fast, trying to sound like a salesperson. I thought that was the right thing to do. And noticing Michael's success over time, I started observing the way he spoke. And all he did was he just decided to be more calm than anyone else. And he spoke much slower. He articulated his words clearly. And the one thing that I gained from that was that the mortgage process is extremely stressful for someone. And at the end of the day, all someone wants when they're going through this process is reassurance. And where would you get reassurance from? Would it come from a salesperson who's screaming down the phone and really fast and trying to move you out of the way and get things going? Or would it come from someone who's calm, makes you feel at ease, makes you feel comfortable? And it was the latter. It was the calm person.
Yeah.
So I realized, okay, I don't need to try and make myself a salesperson. I'm actually quite a naturally calm person as it is. I can just lean into being me.
Yeah.
And that's where the kind of the accent and not the accent, my accent is my accent, but my pacing and everything came from.
Yeah, that's really great advice for anybody out there, especially those people in the call centers, people trying to figure it out, right? Because we talk a lot about scripting and role play and reps, right? But it's finding your pace, right? And I think when you do slow down, you tend to listen a little bit better. Right? So then you can hear what the person wants, what their needs are, right? And that may seem like sales 101, but so many people get that wrong. Right. So it's good that you identified that and you said, hey, I just have to make these little changes, right? And so many times in life, we just have to make little changes and you get big results, right? So did you take Michael down or did Michael stay at the top of the leaderboard?
Dude, he was good, man.
He was like a machine, right?
He was so good. He would submit people's loans and then the next day they'd be like, wait a minute, why did I do that? And they would literally call him back and be like, nah, sorry, can you cancel my file?
He just was that
good, dude.
Gosh, isn't that wild?
Yeah, I mean, he's still at the company because he was just,
Is he?
He was born for it, man. This dude was great. But yeah, at that time I had no time for social, man. It was just hitting the phones.
Hitting it, learning the craft, right? And kind of sharpening your tools, sort of say. And so you didn't even get into the social stuff, right? Until
for a while, yeah.
Until later. So it was that when after the pandemic hit?
So it was kind of like, I guess halfway through ish. Actually, no, it was pretty much kind of wrapping up. Everything was wrapping up. And I decided on a whim because at that time TikTok was kind of like just kind of becoming a thing.
Yeah.
And I was on a whim. I was like, you know what? Let me just make one TikTok and see how it does. Right. So I go outside on my lunch break. What was it about? It was, if you make one extra payment at the end of the year, you could take whatever it is, 4 to 7 years off the length of your mortgage.
Yeah.
And that was it, 18 seconds long or something like that. And so I go out, I step out, I record this TikTok on my phone, no fancy audio, iPhone 8 because I was super broke. I did it, went back in, posted it, didn't think anything of it, got to work the next day, checked my TikTok because I had no followers at the time. And it was like, dude, 8,000 views. I was like, whoa.
In 18 seconds.
Yeah, it was like an 18-second video, 8,000 views. I was like, wow, it did really well. And then I kept working. At lunchtime, I checked it again. It was like 25,000 views. By the end of the day, I checked again. I was like 100,000 views. I'm like, what the heck is this? This is insane. And that was my first taster of posting short-form content around mortgage. And from that point onwards, I knew that I had a way to articulate myself that people connected with. And also I knew the power and the potential of social media for this specific industry, for mortgage, because I was an early adopter. The information wasn't that great, but no one was talking about it. So, that's where I kind of, I decided I saw my opportunity and I just had to seize it at that point.
And you didn't overthink it.
No.
Right? You were just like, I'm going to try this out, see what happens.
What can I lose?
There was nothing to lose, right? You just got to take those chances. And so you've looked like, even in this little time we've been talking, like you've taken many chances in life, right? And I just feel like as we talk about people's journeys and things, it's like there's so many of these moments, right? Where you could have just kept scrolling through TikTok. Instead, you said, I'm going to make one.
Right.
Like that's a defining moment. Like that 18 seconds changed your outlook on that whole thing.
Right.
Right. And so there's been lots of those in just this little bit of time that we've been talking. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah. I mean, the next one was making the decision to just fully focus on social. That was the biggest risk I took.
Really?
Personally, yeah. Because being an English person in America with I have a couple friends, right? Like handful of friends, no family, no real connections, no sphere of influence, no personal sphere of influence. Working in a call center was great for me because I had leads coming in all the time.
Correct.
But there came a point where I made a few TikToks. I probably made maybe 5 to 10 TikToks around that range.
Yeah.
And I started posting on Instagram, but my Instagram was not hitting at all. Instagram was not hitting.
Interesting.
But I had posted a few on social and I was like, okay, I know that I can do well at this, but if I'm working from 6 a.m. till 9 p.m. every day, I'm not going to be able to do it.
No.
So I had the decision of either staying at the company I was at, which was providing me leads and I was earning a decent amount of money and it was great. And this was the best life.
Best money you've ever made.
Right?
Yeah.
I was like, great, this is awesome. Or I had the opportunity to go to another company that was very similar, parallel to this company, a little bit more established, and were offering me a better kind of package. They were giving me a base and everything. And it was just really clean. I was like, okay, that was an even better option than what I had. Or I had the option of going to a relatively unknown direct lender and being self-sourced. But I would have all of the time in the world because I didn't have to...
Because you have to clock in at 6 a.m.
Clock in. I had all of the time in the world to make content. But the likelihoods were that I wouldn't really earn too much for the next few months. And
so which way did you go?
Dude, I was deliberating it And I think at the end of the day, the riskiest thing is just not taking the risk, right? And I think the only person that you can really rely on is yourself. So if you know you're going to do the work, dude, just take the risk.
Correct.
Right? And I had enough confidence in myself through posting a few of those TikToks and reels that, okay, I can do this. I just need to do more and I need to make it better. So I decided to move away from the guaranteed money that I was receiving in the call center or the guaranteed money from the other job. And I decided to go fully self-sourced with no sphere of influence and just 100% focus on social with no money coming in for the foreseeable future.
Wow. Yeah. That takes some cojones. That is a big step out. And I think there's so many people out there who say, I don't have a database. I don't know anybody, right? Like I was in the same boat. I knew nobody, right? And so it is betting on yourself. So I love that. We're going to take a quick little break. We're going to talk some more about that stuff.
Love it.
And dig in a little bit more on the social stuff.
Perfect.
Cool. If you're looking for a really cool brewery with an awesome feel and vibe and great food, check out Docent Brewery in San Juan Capistrano. They focus on great craftsmanship, community, and independence, bringing you all different styles and different beers for you to try. Check them out, Docent Breweries, San Juan Cap. Now back to the show. All right, we are back with Jide Buckley, Mr. Mortgage Kitchen. So tell me, how did the Mortgage Kitchen, because we joked, right? Like last time I saw you, I was like, I'm going to be the mortgage shitter.
Right.
Was that okay if I do that? Like, it might just imprison.
Dude, you should take that handle quick. Yeah. As soon as people hear this, they're going to take it.
Somebody's going to try to take it. Yeah. So how did you do, like, how did that start? Because it's very catchy, but it's simple, right? Like,
dude, just the same way I started my first video and just went outside and just filmed.
Yeah.
I needed to post the video and I needed to have a handle for my TikTok and my Instagram. And I was in my kitchen a lot and I knew my kitchen was like going to be the setup, right? Because I was like, okay, I got a light so I can do it. And I was like, what should I call it? And I was like, the Mortgage Kitchen. And I was like, all right, the Mortgage Kitchen. Didn't even think twice about it. Just
did it.
Just did it. And that was it.
And then it's stuck since then.
Yep.
That's crazy. Like so simple, right? Like, again, we talk about life and how people overthink and overcomplicate things.
Right.
I'm a chronic overthinker, right? But you just said, all right, whatever, this works. And you just went with it.
Yeah.
And you didn't overthink it at all. Like, what are people going to say? What is a mortgage kitchen? Like, right? Like, you just said, F it.
Yeah.
And now I'm just going to continue to do content.
Right.
Right.
And now people call me Mortgage Kitchen. They're like, hey, Mortgage Kitchen. I'm like, all right.
I did that. Right. I was like, hey, I think that's Mortgage Kitchen guy. Right? But hey, could be called where I listen as long as they're calling your name.
Exactly.
Right?
It's catchy, right?
It's catchy. It's cool. So like now you've done all this stuff and videos look great and you're doing all this awesome stuff. But what do you say to people out there who are scared to get started because they don't have a studio, right? Or they don't have a setup or they don't have the lighting or like, everybody's got excuses. I hate excuses, right? I'm like, excuses. I'm going to say it, but you're going to edit this out. Deal? Excuses are like assholes.
Right.
Everybody's got them and they stink. Right? We probably won't edit that out. But
right.
So what do you say to somebody who keeps making excuses on what they should do? Right? Like they taking that first step or just getting started. Like how does that person just do it in the social world, aside from the mortgage world, because that's a whole nother beast.
So I could give you every tip in the universe. I could tell you exactly what to do. But if you don't have that level of inner self-belief and self-confidence to go ahead and do it, it's a waste of time. I'm wasting my breath, right? Now, the one thing I really realized when I took a step back, because something I like to do a lot of time is change my perspective and take a step back in life a lot and just like analyze what's going on and like where I am and how I'm feeling. And I would hike a lot. When I first started making content and I received some negative comments, straight out of the gate, you initially start to feel a bit hurt, right? And I think that's what a lot of people are afraid of on social. A lot of people are afraid of that judgment. You know what I mean? So they don't put themselves out there.
Totally.
And the one thing I realized is if you're someone who's procrastinating to get onto social, but yet you understand the benefit of social, why are you procrastinating? And the reason you're procrastinating is because you are viewing social media from an egotistic perspective, right? You're looking at it like, oh my goodness. my hair doesn't look good today, or my skin's not going to look good, or maybe I don't sound too cool, or my camera's not great, my kitchen doesn't look good, this doesn't look good. You're worried about the way that you're going to look, right? You're worried about the way that people will perceive you. Whereas the perspective you need to come from is, I'm not coming on here to look cool. If I was coming on social media to be an Instagram model influencer, then yeah, you can be worried about the way you look. But your goal on social media is to provide valuable information.
Yes, 100%.
So you have to really sit back and ask yourself, the information always needs to come first. So why should I worry about the way that I look or the way that I sound or some of the insecurities about myself, right?
Yeah.
So as long as you can approach social media from a value-driven angle and a value-driven approach, you'll start to think less about the way that you look or the way that your insecurities are affecting you.
Yeah, because usually it's just you. It's all the stuff you tell yourself, right? And I think there's so many of the real estate agents that I talk to, and then we're going to specifically pick on real estate agents right now, is they don't even promote their product, right? Like you're Jide realtor,
right?
What's your product?
I mean, it's my service, isn't it?
It's your service.
It's
and you sell houses,
right?
Right. I can't tell you how many realtors don't even post pictures of houses,
right?
And I'm blown away, and I'm like, hey, it's really like, don't even get in the room. Just take pictures of homes. Zillow's the greatest, biggest beast in the world.
Right.
All they're doing is putting pictures of homes.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's something so simple as just the houses, because that's what people want to see. They want information and they want houses.
Right.
Right. So as a real estate agent, you should be able to just promote the homes, even the homes you're selling or your office selling. Like you should be giving that information to the people of the world.
Right.
And then I feel like if you're in this industry, we know so much. I think we take for granted all the stuff that we know. So you said like giving the knowledge. There's so much information that we've learned that the average Joe, no pun intended, right, doesn't know.
Yeah.
Right. Something like as simple as the paying extra payment on the mortgage.
Right.
Right. And I just think so many people, I don't know what to say. Right. Like, so do you spend a lot of time writing scripts and stuff like that?
100%. Yeah. It takes me a long time to script my videos. It's got a lot better now because I've done it so many times.
Yeah.
But going back to your point, I think a lot of real estate agents approach social going, okay, I've got to get like the sickest like headshot and like post a cool, I've got to look so cool, or like, let me get a videographer in for like $500, like video me like walking around the house and like putting my sunglasses
pretending on my phone,
whatever. And the one thing you have to realize is that it's a very unfortunate reality, but as soon as you accept this as the reality, you start to do a lot better on social. And the reality is people do not care about you. They only care about what you can do for them.
Ooh.
Right?
Yeah.
That is the reality of it.
For sure.
So I take such a long time scripting and I take such a long time creating my content because I want to deliver as much value to the end user. I want to give so much information. I want to educate people with such a high level of information in such a short amount of time that every single word I say is important because I have 60 seconds to get a very complicated process or a very complicated concept that has taken me a year and a half to learn and distill that into 60 seconds so that the average person can understand it. So really, yeah, I used to spend such a long time scripting, but it's all about making sure that you're having someone feel that sense of, wow, I just learned something.
Yes.
And as soon as they get that wow feeling, it's instant. It's an immediate like, right? So anytime you make content as a realtor, as a loan officer, if you don't make that content and feel yourself when you're watching it, oh, wow, that was cool, don't put it out.
Yes.
That's the way I see it.
Yeah. I feel like there's so much valuable information that we can share, right? And give to people, but you're right. I mean, it's you're taking that complicated process and in the same way you were talking about how you speak, right? Like when you were in the call center, I thought that was interesting. You said, I needed to slow down my delivery and be clear, right? To earn the trust and to make that sale.
Right.
This is almost the opposite, right? You almost have to talk a little bit faster because you got to get your point across pretty quick.
Yep.
But you have to deliver it and make it consumable for that end user, right? And that's something you do an amazing job. Like I said, superpower, like I wasn't kidding. Dude, it's a superpower. to watch you deliver this stuff, I'm like, God, that was so good. You know, like simple, digestible, and you feel like, hey, I really know this guy. I like this guy.
Right.
Right. Like that's hard to do. Now, for 99% of the people who are listening to this who are not that, I would say just get, like you said, right? Get out of your own head. It's not about you. Right. And just put yourself out there.
Right.
Right. And just deliver the information. Right. And I think there's lots of stuff on structuring it and making it look pretty. But I think when you're getting started, you just have to take that first step.
Right.
Right. And don't think about all the I shouldn't, I couldn't, I wouldn't, I didn't. Right. And just make that first piece. Yeah. Because people just overthink it. It's so, and I was guilty of it, you know, and I'm still guilty of it. I mean, I still don't watch, like you said, you listen to all your videos and you, before you post them and stuff like that. Like I don't listen to anything. I do not want to see my face. I hate the way like this shit is not pretty. So I'm like, dude, I make it and it's there. I'm like, all right, dude, post it. Hopefully nobody tells me I sound like a moron.
Give it some time, man. You'll ease into it and then everything will be fine.
Yeah, I try. And I lost a bunch of weight too. I lost like 40 pounds during COVID.
Damn, dude, congrats.
So this is like sexy Joe Soto. This is like the better product than what I was like 2 years ago.
Right.
You know?
Dude, congrats, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, it wasn't easy, man. It wasn't easy. It took like 12 years before I actually lost the weight. And then I finally lost it.
But again, I'm sure it took 12 years to just get to the point where you started, I'm sure.
The pain was too great.
Right.
Right. And I think in life that happens to people in anything, right? Like your pain of being broke or your pain of a bad marriage or your pain of I live in this crappy apartment gets so big that then you want change.
Right.
Right. So in that example, like I just got so over it and fed up that I made the change.
Yep.
Right. And so I think we see that a lot in life.
Right.
Right. In life, you just get to these points and you're like, I need to make a change.
Yeah.
Right? I need to do something different with my stuff.
It's also the perception of pain, because there's that age-old quote, isn't there? It's like there's two pains in life: the pain of working hard, or the pain of regret of not working hard. Right. So, in any instance, it's weighing up the two pains. Right. Is the pain of not feeling as good as you could because you were kind of not in the best physical shape worse than the pain of working out and having to go through all that, hard work to actually get yourself into the shape you're in now? Yeah. And I think it probably took a long time for you to feel that feeling of like, okay, now the pain of working out is way less than the pain that's going to happen if I keep going down this road. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And it's like that with anything, right? With making those calls in the call center, right? Or making that piece of content and doing all of that stuff, right? You just have to do the uncomfortable work. Right. If you want to see progress and results, you have to do all of that stuff, So now I think a lot of your, how much time do you spend on recording? Like, is it 1 day a week, 2 days a week, 10 days a week, every day? Really good question. So I've upped my frequency now. So when I first started for the last 2 years, I went from 0 to, I think I'm at 225 or 226 right now on Instagram as of today. Up until now, I've done my posting frequency was 1 post every 3 days. Okay. I've now upped it to almost 1 a day. So I'm trying to get there. My goal is still get one a day. But as far as my process, I don't ever batch content because it takes me such a long time to script. I'm exhausted after it. Oh, okay. So and a lot of the time it's not the writing the script, it's the research that goes into actually understanding it in enough detail to be able to deliver it. Because there's lots of little nuances in the content that I create. For example, like understanding the nuances with, the RICO mandate in 2015 with any type of escalation clause. You can add in a stipulation within 24 hours. You can receive the real estate agent's name, right, off the back end, off an escalation clause. Things like that. There's loads of like detail that goes into the research so that I can deliver that like unique piece of information that no one else is delivering. Yes. You really do love the data. You love the information. Dude, I'm obsessed with it, man. It's like, because the one thing I realized is like, okay, if you don't have money to start off with, what's the only thing you can do? And I'm like, well, it's understanding that knowledge is an exchange of money, right? Like if you have enough knowledge, you can leverage that knowledge and, make money off the back of it. Yeah. And that's kind of low key where that that it's a bit corny, but that phrase "knowledge is power," right? I say a lot at the end of my videos. Kind of came from that because I genuinely believe, dude, like knowledge is power.
100%.
Yeah.
So you've taken that and you've just 10x'd it basically, and you're obsessed with getting the information and then putting it together in a short amount of time to deliver it in a consumable way, which is really cool.
Right.
Wow. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I didn't know anything about that sort of stuff. So that you learn something new every day, right?
Yeah, man. I do for sure learn a lot of new things every day.
That's so funny. See, you meet cool guys and you figure out they have these nerdy streaks, right? But that sort of stuff, like that uniqueness is what separates you, right? Like that's what makes you kind of cool, right? It's like, hey, I didn't know that. Like that's really awesome. And that's why people continue to follow you, right? You're giving quality knowledge. You're educating and giving people, making them more knowledgeable.
Thank you, man.
On the other end of it. So that's super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So talk to me about influence, right? I'm a big believer in you're the sum of the 5 people closest to you, right? I read a lot of books. I was like a nomad. I was a renegade loan officer for a long time, right? Renegade loan officer is a person who does a lot of activity but doesn't close any deals.
Right.
That was me.
Okay.
For a long time. I was like, I'm so busy. And then like I had 2 closings. Like I'm so busy doing loans and nothing closed, right? And then I got coaching and I started getting around people who helped me. Right. Who brought me up. So have you had any of those influences in your life of people who've been around you who've kind of helped you become better, or you've learned from them, or maybe if it's not that, maybe it's something that you've read, like books that you read or podcasts. Like I'm a big Audible guy. Like I'm constantly listening to something because I know nothing.
Right.
So that's my secret.
All of us though, right?
Yeah. I'm like, I'm reading this book and I just learned something great out of this Audible. So what do you do to help you with that? Right. Like to keep the mind right and sharpen those types of skills.
So I would say as far as a person, because that's something you said at the beginning, the one person that's probably had the biggest influence on me is my manager when I worked at a company called Caliber Home Loans.
Okay.
He was the divisional like area manager. He was doing really well for himself. He had a boat. He has a boat. He's, sailing all the time, picking up huge tuna fish and just living this awesome dream lifestyle, man. And I really looked up to him a lot. So I reached out to him and he was, more than happy to bring me on his team. And that was me kind of coming out of that call center mentality and going into more of like a strategic consultancy mentality. Totally
different mindset.
Right. It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you have to be very selective and you also have to have a certain level of self-esteem as to how you work with clients, because there's so much nuance in this business that, at any point it's very easy for you to lose control of a situation and for people to kind of run away with things or run away with what you're saying or like go ahead and try and shop you with a different lender. And like, for me, being under this gentleman, Mike, was the biggest learning curve. And I got very close and understood a lot of the way he thinks about mortgage.
Yeah.
And he was the dude who broke down so much for me. He was all about, building wealth through real estate. So he would like make all these charts and I'd go into his office and he'd like jump on the whiteboard and like break down this strategic like ways of like, using a 401k to drop a down payment and doing this and da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
And I would say he was the heaviest influence on me to realize, wow, okay, like if you think outside of the box, that can be your unique selling point.
Yeah. There's more to this than just buying a house.
Right. It's all about strategic wealth building. And his outlook on mortgage shaped my entire channel.
Yes.
So as a person, Mike Horn, shout out to Mike Horn. He was the biggest single influence on me.
Yeah. I think so many people don't realize that. Like what you just said about the building wealth, and I think you mentioned it earlier too, but I think especially in this market, right, people forgot that you buy homes for wealth, right, or to change your children's life.
Right.
They thought you only buy a house if rates are 2%, right? Yeah. But the fact is that with rates at 5, 6, 7%, you can still build wealth.
100%.
Right? The numbers still work.
Yeah.
Right? It's still a pretty good investment from what I hear. Right? And so I think that's great. And I think that people need to understand that, right? Like, I think we're in the market right now where people are like, rates are so high. It's like 6%. I'm like, dude, they've been higher. Like in February, they were higher.
Right.
Right. And so people don't realize that, but learning that skill and having somebody teach you that early in the business is huge.
Yeah.
Is huge because most people, I mean, a lot of people haven't learned that 10, 20, 30 years in the business. So shout out to Mike for doing that, you know?
Yeah.
As far as books or audibles or podcasts, you do any of that fun stuff?
So yeah, one book that I really like is Atomic Habits.
Oh, I just read that.
It's cool, isn't it?
So good.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
It changes your whole perspective
Changes
on the way
your
that
whole perspective. Like the biggest thing for me was remove the friction. Right? Keep it simple. Make it easy.
Yep.
Like we tend to, if it's too difficult, we don't do it. And so that one for me was a big one where I'm like, all right, now I just got to figure out how to make all these little things in my life easy.
Right.
Right. Like you're like, hey, you're doing 2 podcasts today? Yeah. Because it's easier for me to sit here and talk for 3 hours than to talk for, come back and forth, travel and do all of that stuff.
100%. Yeah.
And I think that's really important in the mortgage business and sales in general.
Yeah.
Right. Because people get scared to make phone calls. They get scared to do all of this stuff. Right. I can't do this and I can't do that. But if you remove all the friction, friction's like my new favorite word. You remove all the friction, you can't make any excuses.
Right. And I think the overarching principle is that, at least from what I learned from the book, is that the people that are the best aren't more disciplined than you. They just have better systems than you.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, it helps you reframe the way that you are in your day to day. And it helps you realize there's no distance between you and the number one.
No.
It's just that they're doing things better. That they're more efficient than you are.
They're more efficient.
Right?
Totally.
It's a game changer.
It's the system. Systems is another really good one, right? Because the better your systems, the better your process. And ultimately, the better that's why Amazon is a beast. They've made it the easiest in the world to order stuff.
Right.
Right? Like, it's not because I'm getting this at a cheaper price from Amazon.com. It's, I open it up, I click, easy process.
Right.
Right. So yeah, in this industry, especially because so many moving parts in this business, right? Like you're just clients and realtors and buyers and sellers. It's just so many moving parts.
You know, one thing that's so awesome, I would love to add this in this podcast as a gift to any loan officer that's watching this, is I downloaded this really amazing mortgage calculator on the App Store. And I've used it almost in replacement of a TCA.
Really?
Right. So obviously, the mortgage coach thing, mortgage coach is great, but it's really frustrating when someone keeps coming back to you and they're going, okay, can you give me a pre-approval for this? And you've got to change everything and go on the computer. And this app is so awesome. I think it's just called like Mortgage Calculator, and it's like a blue icon with a little orange square.
Okay.
And you can just adjust the numbers on a little thing. It's really quick. And then you can just do a quick, you can send something out to a client within 15 seconds.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I literally did it today just before I came here.
Oh, wow. And you just text it over to them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's it. Screenshot and text and send.
See, remove the friction. Right. Like the TCA is nice. I mean, I love the mortgage coach stuff, but you got to go in the app. You got to change the 7 different fields. Yeah. Then you got to make sure they're all the same. So,
or even just mentally, you're like, oh man, just don't ask me for another one, please. No, I don't want to have to open my laptop again. I don't want to have to, I'm driving. Like, dude, you shouldn't ever use your phone while you're driving,
Self-drive.
Yeah.
You do it all the time, right? I do it almost everywhere.
I'm not admitting it on this podcast, but I could have done it.
Oh gosh. Yeah, no, I'm the worst. My wife will not drive with me in the Tesla.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, there's no way I'll drive. She drives 90% of the places we go.
Yeah, dude.
Because I'm so bad.
Being in California, I think Tesla is just so necessary.
Yeah.
Because the amount of driving, between back and forth, like OC to LA is just like
nasty.
Yeah.
It's nasty. So again, removing that friction, right? Like that's a great little app, and I'll probably go and I'll download it because I want to make my life easier.
Right.
Right. And make the clients like make that process easy for them.
Yeah.
But anything you can do to make your life a little bit easier.
Dude, let me show you this.
It's really cool.
I don't think people are going to be able to see this unless we show it to the
camera. Unless we put it
up
on the camera.
Look, this is the breakdown I sent to him.
Oh, wow.
It has an amortization schedule on it as well.
Oh, dang.
So awesome, isn't it?
Yeah. And they can see how much principal and interest goes out.
HOA, the whole breakdown of the whole payment. I was like, did that in 10 seconds.
That's pretty cool. And he feels empowered.
Right.
Because he's like, look at all this fancy stuff he just ran for me.
Yeah. And there's a graph in the middle which shows the payments,
the principal pays.
Like, this is awesome, dude.
He probably thinks that's your proprietary thing. And
Right.
you're like, whatever. Like, hey, whatever works, man.
But it's just, that's it. Streamline your processes. And as soon as you do that, it's game over.
It's that hockey stick, right? It's your stuff takes off. The more better your processes are.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's relevant for anybody in this industry,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think so many times, especially, so you look back at call center days and you can really relate to this, right? Because you were a call center guy. You were putting in long hours for low comp.
Yep.
We won't even talk about that for all the call center guys.
Low or no comp.
Low or no comp,
Yep.
right?
It
You
was
were
a
just
flat fee at the beginning.
Yeah, you're just trying to get a deal. You're like, yeah, look at me, I got a deal on the board.
Yep.
But what I learned in the call center is he who controls the leads
Yes.
controls the income,
That's exactly the same thing that I learned too.
right? So for me, I realized when I was in the call center, one thing that happened to me when I was in the call center, I worked for 3 companies that got shut down by the FDIC.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So I was like miserable, right? But the last time they kept my database,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I realized unless I start creating my own leads,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just a prisoner,
Right.
right? Like they control me. And so I think when you, that mentality, like you've created a really great brand,
Mm-hmm.
which isn't seen in the mortgage industry or real estate industry for the most part, but that allows you to leverage to get leads.
Yep.
Right. And if you control the lead,
Yep.
you control everything.
100%.
Right. In the
Yep.
call center, you weren't doing that.
No.
So that big step out of call center is huge, by the way. Like a lot of LOs stay there.
Yeah.
Got a buddy who was been in the call center for 14 years. Same company.
Yeah.
They closed their doors in December.
So painful.
And you know what they gave him?
What?
Pretty much nothing. Just shake of the hand. Hey, there you go. Hey, how about all those clients I worked on for 14 years for you? Those are ours.
Painful.
Have a nice life. Right. So again, part of this leverage and stuff that you've done with social
Mm-hmm.
is putting you in a position now where you're the lead generator.
Right.
That is another superpower, right? Like that's magic.
Yeah.
Because if you can bring in the lead,
Yeah.
I mean, you have control of your whole destiny, in my opinion, right? That's just my own personal opinion. So you being able to bring those in is huge.
Yeah, man.
Right?
And it also changes the dynamic between your relationship with real estate agents too.
Totally.
Because something I noticed, at least when I first started out, was when I was moving to self-sourced and I was, starting out the thing on Instagram
Painful.
and social, it wasn't really going as fast as I wanted it to. It was still moving at a good pace, but I wasn't really bringing any leads in through social media.
No.
So I had to do the traditional call up the real estate agent, annoy them, pretend I'm their friend. Hey, let's hang out. Like, it'd be great to grab coffee someday. Why? Well, kind of,
They don't want to go to coffee.
See if I can help you. They know 100% I'm trying to reach out and speak to them. And it's very disingenuous because at the end of the day, I've looked on, the results of, from whatever, and I've seen that they've done a load of business and I'm reaching out because I would like some of their business. And they get these calls every single day from loan officers. And I felt for them. I was like, I was calling them and they were kind of immediately very dismissive and very frustrated that I was even calling. And I'm kind of like, I'm really sorry. Like, I just have to do this.
Yeah.
And I realized, the more I dove into social and the more that I was being of genuine value to the end consumer was coming to me without me asking because they have questions and they want things done specific to their scenario.
Correct.
And as soon as a real estate agent knows that you don't need them for business, but you're actually reaching out because you just want to, connect, right? And there's no hidden agenda. The conversation becomes so much easier.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you're not a taker,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think there's so many people in the industry that just take, and it makes it's hard. It's a hard conversation, right? Like I was just thinking of that when you made the move, right? Like those first 6 months, whatever, 4 months must have sucked so bad.
Yeah, major.
Right? Like next level suck. And so many people look at you and see again how you've got this big following, right?
Uh-huh.
That they don't realize like you had to deal with that suck.
Yeah.
Like there's so many loan officers and realtors who are like, oh man, this sucks. But you worked your way through the suck.
Yeah.
Right? You worked your way through all that tough time. And that was hard. Like I know that those are hard calls and hard times and you're not making any money. And you're like, what the heck am I going to do?
Yeah.
Right? So kudos to you for hanging in there Because that's tough, man. Like, see that face you made? That was like, yeah, dude, that was tough.
I still look back and I'm like, damn, would I do that again? I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it was rough, dude.
It was rough.
But,
right?
Something I really took from that was a lot of people, when I was leaving that call center environment, were like, why are you doing this, dude? You're missing out on so much money. Like, you're making these social videos, but are you getting any money from it? Are you getting business from it? And I was like, no, I'm not. But I know the value of building your brand. And everyone in the call center was doubting me. Everyone thought it was stupid. Everyone was making fun of me. And I had to stay strong and realize that the allocation of my resource towards social media was hands down the best thing I could do. Because yes, there's instant gratification with making calls. Because on a refinance, you can call within an hour, you can submit a loan as long as they've got their documents ready and you do all that business.
Yeah.
And that's the instant gratification. But with social media, getting into this, you can't come at social media the same way you come at anything else as a realtor, as a loan officer. You have to come to it at a point of understanding that it's not going to be overnight, but the value in building your brand long term is going to be the single best decision you ever make. So you've got to be willing to go through all that hard work and that struggle in order to actually see benefit.
Yep. I love that. I think that's huge and great perspective, right? Because you're a lot of us, I think the old school way, right? I'm an old head. Is that what they called me, Joaquin? Old head? Called me an old head. Mm-hmm. Apparently my age is old. But the old school way of doing it, the old school way of doing it, right, is like, I don't know, what do you do those notepads with your picture on it, right? And you mail them out to everybody in the neighborhood. Yeah. And then that becomes that's your brand. But I think in 2023, like your brand is what shows up on that phone.
Right.
Right. And you have to brand yourself, because the old school way of farming and doing that's pretty much dead.
Right.
Like I don't know. I open my stuff over the trash. I throw it away.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you've done a really, really good job of that. I think more people out there need to get out of their comfort zone and just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But it's hard. It's not easy. It's not pretty.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's just a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that go into it before you actually see the results.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's deal with the haters and people. Like, I love that people in the call center were like, this is the greatest job ever, bro. Why would you leave? Like, how many of those guys are not in the industry? Right.
Right. Almost all of them.
Almost all of them.
Yeah.
Right. Because they were like, because they were dependent on XYZ company.
Right.
Right. And they didn't have the foresight to see, if I build this brand, the brand is going to survive.
Right.
Right. So I think that's super cool.
Yeah, dude. Honestly, it's just, I feel very fortunate that I think this way.
Yeah.
I just believe truthfully in backing yourself and having the understanding that a brand is a legacy. And if this is something that you really want to do long term, then starting a brand tomorrow isn't an option. You need to start yesterday, because the more people start to realize the benefit of social, which is something we're starting to see now, the more crowded the market gets.
Correct.
And the more difficult it becomes. So at the end of the day, yesterday was the best time to push yourself on social, but at the end of the day, right now, it's the second best time. Yeah.
Yeah. Super cool.
Yeah.
Well, hey man, I appreciate this. This has been super cool. We got to learn a little bit about you, learn about the kitchen, talk about mom.
Yeah.
I'm super grateful for your time. You are somebody that I look at, that I respect a lot in the social game, in the mortgage side. I just think you're doing really cool stuff, man. And
appreciate it.
You're making it fun, because mortgage is boring.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's boring, and you're making it interesting. And so I appreciate your time and just coming on, and hopefully we'll do this again.
All right. Sounds good. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man.